What's up, Ride Warriors, and welcome back to another episode of Cedar Point Unlimited. Of course, I'm Andrew Marchek, joined once again by Steve Lynn. Steve, how's it going?
It's going well. We're well into the summer season and the roller coasters and all the parks, and we're here once again to talk about Cedar Point. And you recently had an opportunity to attend Coaster-Mania, and you learned of some very interesting and kind of big information that it's very not much info was given, but enough to speculate on.
Yeah, and this one I haven't heard a lot of people jumping all over this. It's been about a week or so now since Coaster-Mania has been over. Coaster-Mania, a great event again. Coasters in the morning, coasters at night. I got 18 rides on Maverick for the nighttime ERT. You can't beat that. 13 where I didn't stand up from the chair. My shoulders hurt so bad afterwards, but whatever, it's worth it, right? It's Maverick, one of the best coasters in the world. So
I feel like my thighs would have hurt more than anything with how that bar comes down.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that hurt. But I'm doing like this. My wife's asking me, why do you keep doing that with your arm? I'm like, I don't know. And then it dawned on me, oh, Maverick.
Yeah.
18 rides on Maverick will do that to you. So anyway, every year at Coaster-Mania, they do a nice little Q&A session. And you're not going to get anything big out of the Q&A. But every now and then they drop something interesting and they say it. And I don't know if they walk into the Q&A and say, hey, this is something we're going to say today to get them to whet their appetite. But, it was a fun time. Tony Clark was joking around. Christy was there. Jason McClure was there. And Jason McClure, I forget the question that was asked now. I think someone asked, well, what are you doing out there with that big piece of land next to the campground that they tore down Sandcastle Suites? And Jason McClure started giving a long answer, started going around and be like, oh, well, we can't say what we're doing there yet. And, he's like, people always say at Cedar Point, where are you going to put the next big thing? Where are you going to put the next big, investment that you're out of land? And he's like, no, we're not out of land, that we're actually adding 4 acres of land to the peninsula over the next year or so. He didn't really give a timeline, so I made that up. So just know that the timeline I made up there. But he says that they are already in the process of adding land to the peninsula. He said 4 acres. Now, to put that in perspective, that's right above, it's not right 3.5, but right above 3 football fields of land. That's a lot of land. This isn't like they're just, throwing some sand down. That they're and Jason McClure kind of hinted, based on what he was talking about, kind of hinted that it would be going there in the back of the park. Now, if it goes anywhere else, they can't put it over by the marina because they have a marina. They're probably not going to put it over by Steel Vengeance because Steel Vengeance goes pretty much all the way to the lake. They could put it over by Gatekeeper Wicked Twister, but I'm pretty sure Jason McClure, and we, like I said, at the Q&A, there's no recording, there's no actual transcripts, so you kind of have to remember everything, and they go through everything real quick. So I'm pretty sure he hinted that it was going towards the back of the park. Now, Steve, I've been talking about the back of the park for a very, very long time, that if you are going to do a huge roller coaster, I'm not saying that they're doing it for 2020, they might be doing it for 2021 or later, but if you were doing a huge roller coaster, the place I would put it, I would put the station in the antique cars in Frontier Town. Those antique cars usually close down for Halloween weekends anyway. There's only on the busiest of days do you have an extended line. You already have an antique car up in the front of the park with the Cadillac cars. So to me, this antique cars in the back of the park has always been superfluous. That it was kind of like, why is this here? It's really cool. It's very scenic, very picturesque, but it is taking up a huge chunk of land. And if I was doing anything, I'd put a station right there, shoot the coaster straight out over like where the road goes between the cabins and the campground, maybe redo some of that area, maybe take out some of the campgrounds because you just added campgrounds, and shoot the coaster and have the turnaround out by where Sandcastle Suites was, just like Magnum does. Magnum shoots straight out, does the turnaround, and comes straight back. So it would be it would be something along the lines of a layout like Magnum. It would have to be, if you're going to go out that far, I'm guessing Giga, Strata, maybe even a new classification if you're going 500 feet. I don't know. I'm not, because Steve, the tallest coaster is King Ka, and if you're going to go 400 feet and you're going to beat King Ka's record for height, why not go 500 feet? You're only talking about an extra 20 to 25 feet there. So you're not talking about a huge amount of distance to take the record. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think they're building a coaster? Like, really? You're spending a lot of money.
I would love for them to build another coaster, which I'm sure they will eventually. But I don't know if putting a huge coaster in where the antique cars is over the road through the cabins, I don't know if that would be the best route, just because it seems like it would be way too cluttered in terms of having supports throughout Frontier Town, having to dodge the parking lot, the cabins. And if we're saying they're adding on 4 acres of land, you don't need that if you're starting at where the antique cars are, you don't need that extra 4 acres of land all the way out towards the back of the park.
It depends on how you do the turnaround, because if it's just like a Magnum-like turnaround, then no. But if you're going to do any turnaround, because keep in mind, if you're going out that way, the main crux of that is going to be the lift hill, where that's going to take up a whole lot.
Yeah.
So any other elements that you're going to do are probably going to have to happen out there. Now, I'm not saying who the manufacturer is. We're thinking, Steve, you're thinking B&M, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe this is an RMC T-Rex coaster, which was sold to us saying that you wouldn't need as many supports. Just saying.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that works out, because you look at the single rails and they got a lot of support still. So it's not like you're flying out.
I feel like the T-Rexes are also pretty compact. I mean, you could probably fit a good T-Rex coaster in where the antique cars are in itself, just in that area alone.
But you couldn't get it that high. If you want to go that high, you're going to have to go out that way.
Yeah.
So if you want to take any sort of height record, now granted, if we're not talking about taking a height record, then I'm with you. That theory only works if you're trying to make something that's a 400-foot coaster or a 500-foot coaster. That's the only way you go out there. Any other way, there's plenty of other spots to put a coaster in the park.
And if Cedar Point's building a coaster that's not a family ride, they're not going to just put in any cookie cutter thing. They're going to want to break 1, 2, 3, 5 records. So
yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. Everyone's like, where's the first T-Rex coaster going to go? Because we have the 2 single rails, the Raptor coasters, if you will. We have them with Wonder Woman and Railblazer, but we don't have this thicker track. We've seen RMC, we've seen the track at IAPA, we've seen it at the plant, but we've yet to see or hear of anyone even talking about buying an RMC T-Rex track. So maybe Cedar Point's got that locked up. That's theory 1.
But they are having issues with Steel Vengeance. So do you think they're going to maybe have second guesses about going with RMC on a brand new type of ride? I mean,
well, I think we have to go to, and I don't know this answer because I'm not at this park daily. I think the question is, are they having issues with Railblazer? Because if they're having issues with Railblazer, then I would be more concerned. The issues they're having with Steel Vengeance is you've created a ride that is super intense, that pushes the boundaries on everything, and you've created it on a structure that was built in 1991. So that's the issue with Steel Vengeance. And yeah, you can say, well, that's an engineering problem. It could be, and they're trying to work those problems out. They kind of had issues with Twisted Timbers as well, opening up. But Railblazer, I haven't heard too much coming out of Kaga with Railblazer status. I know Wonder Woman had a few issues here and there at the beginning of this season, but it seems to be running okay now that it wasn't open at the beginning of this season for a small period of time. Whether that's because of their choice or because they were having issues, I don't know. I can't speculate on that. But you bring up a good point. they did have issues with Steel Vengeance. They did have issues with Twisted Timbers. Are they going to go back to the RMC well? But Cedar Point loves to be the first to the game too.
They do.
So the first RMC T-Rex track, the first coaster, or the first RMC that goes over X amount of feet. You're talking records there, especially if you're talking maybe taking King Disca's record. I don't know. That's really high. 500. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like 500 feet is not really high, but if there's a place that's going to do it, isn't it Cedar Point? Like Cedar Point's always broken the record. People said, oh, you can't go over 200. People said, oh, you can't go over 300. People said, oh, you can't go over 400.
But to have a T-Rex coaster, the first of its kind to be put in anywhere, to put it at 500 feet seems a little
ambitious.
Because, I mean, Intamin started with, Millennium at 300. Then they went to 400. So
it seems a little ambitious. That's why I'm saying I think it's a long shot. I'm not out here saying that that's absolutely what's going to happen. I'm putting into people's minds. I've been saying that spot at the Antique Cars, I said this 5 years ago, that if you were going to build a huge coaster, you had to start it there. And now all of a sudden they're building extra land out onto they tore down Sandcastle after I said that. And now they're building extra land out there where Sandcastle stood. And I'm just sitting here like, well, I said that 5 years ago already now. The other theory is the other thing that we've been talking about is this idea of another hotel, which I think is the more probable theory.
Yeah.
Because the location out there. Steve, did you ever stay in Sandcastle Suites?
I did when I was really, really young. I was maybe 10 years old, so I don't really remember it too much, but it was well before they even updated it.
The pool at Sandcastle, you just overlook the entire lake, and at sunset, like the sun was off to your side. It was absolutely fantastic. The view that you would get from some of those rooms, from the pool area, was just out of this world amazing. Obviously, Hotel Breakers has a lot of those same views, but you get the more of the panoramic because you're out there on the tip of it, so you get everything. You get that side of the lake, you get that side of the lake, you get all of it. It was absolutely fantastic. And a hotel out there makes a lot of sense because if you look at their recent financials, they talk about the growth in the hotels making up about 10% of their business. They just bought Schlitterbahn. A big piece of that was New Braunfels has the resort attached to it. I'm sure they're going to update that. They are Cedar Fair building hotels and Carowinds, possibly at Canada's Wonderland. They're getting into the hotel business. And their hotels are booked. When I booked for Coaster Mania, there weren't a whole lot of options. That Sports Force Park is working. They are bringing people into the park. They're bringing people into the hotels. I think they have enough demand right now. They have enough supply to meet the demand. But in the future, if you want to keep growing, you're going to need more rooms. And out there, I'll tell you what, Sandcastle was okay. It was like Breakers was back before the renovation. It was okay, but it wasn't spectacular. But you can make that something spectacular.
They're turning it into Breakers turned it. They always called it Breakers Resort. It was never a resort atmosphere there. It was an old hotel that just happened to be right next to a bunch of roller coasters. They turned that around, turned it into a really nice resort, and I bet they're going to expand on that, putting it over more towards the lake in a quieter, like campground type area. It'll be right next to all those cabins, so I'm sure it'll be kind of themed to some type of cabin, like backwoods experience type of thing. So.
Or even like a marina. Like I know Disney has the yacht club and all that. That's kind of like one of their upper tier hotels. I keep saying a high end hotel. People keep saying to me, "Oh, that's Breakers," but you could really get more high end here too by offering spa services, by offering all this other stuff. Something that struck me when I sat down one time at Breakers was there was a group next to me. I was just sitting on the beach or sitting by the fire pit, sitting somewhere. And they were talking about how they weren't even going into the park, how their kids might go into the park, but they had no intentions of doing so. Like they had spent the day in Put-in-Bay, let the kids into the park. They were older kids, I'm assuming, hopefully. They spent the day in, Put-in-Bay, and they came back at night. And Cedar Point's kind of losing that money there because, they're paying for the hotel room at Breakers. They're getting that experience, but there's other things that they could offer at these hotels that maybe people would pay a little bit of an upcharge for to get more of an experience at Cedar Point. So I think those are the two front runners for me.
I think this just kind of popped in my head right now as we were talking about that was, what if they turned it into some type of city walk type thing where they have restaurants? Maybe this is where, we always talk about having a real boardwalk.
A boardwalk without rides, though.
Yeah, it would be more of a, like just a carnival, not a carnival, but like a, shop, like a downtown Disney type of thing. Disney Springs, where it's like a bunch of little shops and just a place to hang out after the park is closed for the people.
Because once again, 4 acres is a lot of land. Plus, you already have everything that Sandcastle, that they only used about half of the land, not even half of the land for what Sandcastle took up. So you could actually probably do something like that. Yeah. Or you could take out Magnum.
That, do you think?
Which is blasphemy, Steve.
I hope they don't do that. But
I had to say it.
It's gonna, there's gonna be a day when it comes down. Could it be for a 500-foot roller coaster?
Oh, I don't know if that would sit well with me. I know that would not sit well with one Danny Miller. It's blasphemy. It's blasphemy that I even said it, but I had to. For you, the people, I had to say it.
Because it is possible.
It's
at some point.
It's possible. Because you would eliminate all those issues that you had over by Frontier Town. So you would eliminate all the structural issues. Obviously, the supports would have to be changed a little bit because of new technology. Magnum's very, very thin. But who's to say that the T-Rexes wouldn't be very, very thin?
Right.
I want to throw up just having said it. So anyway, I think those are the two front roller coaster of some record, and then or a hotel. I'm going to put my money on hotel though, because they love hotels right now, and they are.
Plus, they just tore a whole hotel down. So I mean, Breakers seems to be pretty hard to get a room in Breakers. So they're probably gonna.
It's usually sold out. So
the demand is there. So.
And they don't have any, like, even the bigger rooms don't sleep a whole lot of people. So they have the big tower rooms that I've stayed in that are about $600 to $700 a night. Back then, I don't even know what they are now. But in those big tower rooms, there's only one king bed and 2 pull-out beds. So you're really not talking about being able to sleep a whole lot of people. Maybe they do bigger rooms out there, more real suites. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. But I think that them building 4 acres of land, that is not a cheap endeavor. That is not cheap at all to do that. Is going to be interesting to see what they're eventually going to do with that land. So you'll have to stay tuned here on CP Unlimited to find out, right? So as always, I am Andy Rabarchak from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Steve Lynn from Cleveland, Ohio.
Right on, Right Warriors.